Hey everyone, I'm going to be taking a look at this Canon Ultimate tier list since I saw one tier and honestly knew that this was going to be pretty fun to debunk. So with not too much of an intro to waste time on, I'm just going to be getting straight into it.
Bayonetta literally kills angels as a hobby.
I'm going to be trying to give you an easier time by not nitpicking everything unless it has something to do with strength or something around that area, so I won't mess with you on this one.
Cloud is very durable and has a huge sword. Like, seriously, good luck surviving a strike from this thing.
Okay, so I'm going to be messing with you on this one because I want you to think about what you had said and just piece that all together. So being durable and having a big sword is what lets you kill gods. If that's the case, well, why isn't Ike here? And Shulk's sword is big too, and then there's Link. What about Link? You also say durable, but with no mention of anything, it doesn't help. I don't want to assume that you're just going off of what others have said in the past or something like that where you found some information, so I'll leave you alone on that. But without mention as to why he's that durable, you're going to raise some eyebrows. Also, that should be some of the more minimal stuff in the case of Cloud due to his long list of abilities and skills in Final Fantasy. Just stating that he has a huge sword doesn't do the character any justice, nor help state that he's a godlike character.
Mewtwo is a legendary Pokemon, and we all know how strong those are.
Chief, there are all types of legendary Pokemon. Saying that he's a legendary Pokemon, that doesn't just mark him off being a god killer of some sorts. That's not going to help you at all. Plus, there's more legendary Pokemon after 1st gen and after 4th, if that's what you're referencing. In Pokemon, you can get away with enough easy scaling, and Mewtwo's thing would make sense easily, but him being a it being a legendary Pokemon isn't just some key card that lets you into tiers like this. We have bad legendary Pokemon. This isn't a freebie, especially since you also haven't provided any reason as to why Mewtwo is up there alone off of its own strength, and attributing to the fact that it's a legendary. That's not gonna do anything for it. You need to provide some sort of evidence to the case.
And Palutena is actually a goddess.
Alright, well, for those that saw my last debunk, do you remember what I said about people instantly grouping a character in just because of titling and not what they do? This is another example of that. For those that didn't, well, I just explained, Palutena has little to no feats for her character, but people love to put her on this pedestal when she has yet to prove herself. Also, for the creator and anyone that doesn't know what a feat is, feats are just the actions of a character that give us examples of their strength. It sounds pretty easy, right? All you have to do is just basically cite your sources as to why you think something is strong, and if that's correct in all ways, then it's basically verified if it's full on correct. With it sounding that easy, you would have thought that this would have been a thing that the creator would have done instead of just state these misinformed statements that honestly sound like opinions, if anything.
I guess this applies for Rosalina as well, because she does the whole kind of god thing at the end of Super Mario Galaxy 1.
Does anyone truly know what happens at the end of Mario Galaxy? Also, why is it just completely ignored that Rosalina is pointed out to be the child of at least one of the human characters we already know? She was also conceptualized to be the daughter of Peach, but that was just like AFK'd, and now it's just like up in the air on who it is, but most likely they're human, even if they are from a different timeline. To reiterate, human characters. If her being this strong is notable, then it would be good to take a huge look at the potential parents here. Aside from that, she didn't create a whole universe. People will fight me on that, I know, but from just playing the game alone and the Mario Galaxy guide, you can see that all that is happening is a cycle that was meant to happen anyways. It's been a cycle that's existed even before Rosalina. Plus, does no one remember what it's like with her without her power stars? I feel like it's just this enormous thing that's left out, especially since further down the line you develop a thing to where a character is nothing without their arsenal or abilities, which makes no sense since you contradict yourself here, and it lets a bunch of other characters get away for the exact thing that you won't let insert characters here get away with. It's contradictory.
Simon and Richter are vampire slayers, and considering vampires are supposed to be like immortal and stuff, that's a pretty difficult job to work.
The explanation is so questionable because I know how the vampires of Castlevania work and how strong they do get, but with how you explain it, you're going about them like regular vampires. And say that if they were regular vampires, vampires have pretty clear-cut answers and a full-on list on what for sure kills them. But Dracula of Castlevania is way ahead of any of the vampires that we traditionally know. Though the Castlevania vampires, they do have a list on what defeats them, so that I will give you credit on that, even though that's something that I just mentioned. The reasoning behind it goes on strength. There's a lot more scaling in Castlevania, which if not sat down with and full on researched, everything that's said usually goes empty. I mean, obviously how that works with anything, but with Castlevania in specific, it is the problem since there hasn't been any real reasons for it, and you kind of leave it to interpretation with what you're saying.
Sonic being placed here might surprise you all, but he seems to take down some sort of godlike figure every game he appears in from Adventure 1 to Unleashed.
I'll give you credit on Sonic, because people forget about what Sonic does like all of the time, and it's good for his recognition when he's being taken seriously as any other of those extremely strong characters. So big ups to you on that.
Finally, I put Power Suit Samus and Snake here because they were basically raised their whole lives to perform combat and have an arsenal of explosives and other tools to use.
Alright, bro. I'm gonna tell you this here. There is an enormous disconnect here. Samus being here is one thing that was questionable to me. But I'm gonna focus on Snake, alright? Just put this on the table. Anything that Snake would have here is nowhere near the level of any of the characters we had mentioned here. These are all characters that are at least planet level plus at bare minimum. But what is Snake doing here to anyone? Like, he has good feats for being a guy, like a human, but he's really just a guy in comparison to everyone here. In the case of Samus, which happens to be completely similar to my last debunk, she isn't that strong. You haven't said any outlandish stuff that it's been like, oh, she's universal or something along the lines of that, so I don't have to correct you on something like that. But for what you're saying, I'm going to tell you that she isn't really that strong, and Snake, for God, no, he's just not at all.
I put Link and Ganondorf here because even though Link always ends up beating Ganon, he does that with the help of the Master Sword, a shield, and a bunch of projectiles, while Ganondorf can pose a threat without anything else to back him up. He can just be Ganondorf, and that's usually enough power to almost conquer the world each time he tries.
Alright, man. Okay, bro, if a character has their tools, it's their tools. Disregarding it does not make any sense because that's what they use. If you want to make this list on pure strength alone with no buffs at all, you're going to see a lot of the characters that you will mention and have mentioned jump up and down. Even then, Ganon has the Triforce of Power, which isn't something that's just in his character. Even if he's bound to it, he has to attain it. If that's the case, you would have to remove it from him. Also, you can't just include Samus and Snake and have an issue on what Link uses. It makes no sense. You can't just pick and choose on what characters you want to have on who gets what and who doesn't get what and who gets factored in on strength due to their arsenal. It really doesn't make any sense.
Sheik is also very difficult for Link to keep up with in the few games she appears in.
So, Sheik can be here even though if you do remove the tools, she's Zelda. I'm only saying this off of your words. This isn't something that I'm just coming up with, since you want to remove the tools of characters. Also, look into what Sheik actually does. If you haven't played Ocarina of Time, I'm pretty sure you'll change your mind about the placement here because it's not as crazy as you would think. And also, you have to factor in Zelda being capable of this stuff. Like, it's just, at least in that iteration of Zelda.
Lucario's up here because he's literally a Pokemon designed for fighting.
A Pokemon designed to fight? Or a fighting type Pokemon? Because if we're going off of technicalities, all Pokemon are designed to fight. But I think what you meant is it's a fighting type Pokemon. I know I wouldn't say this, my bad. But it's just like, hey, it's a fighting type Pokemon, so yes, easily designed to fight. But there are other Pokemon around the same power and stats and all that types of stuff that aren't fighting types? Does that disregard them? Like, that wouldn't make any sense.
Mega Man actually has a metal armor suit.
Metal armor suit? Wait, hold on. Do you think that this is just a guy wearing robot armor or metal armor instead of just Mega Man being actually all robot? You also didn't talk about a single thing that he did, because if you're just going to mention metal armor suit, then you should have just put Mega Man with Samus off of the logic that you're using. That's not even going into how strong Mega Man is, which is ridiculous, but you didn't even mention that for me to make that a case, just like, well, you haven't done that with a lot of the characters we've seen so far.
Meta Knight and Dark Samus aren't the main villains of their respective series, but they usually end up being more powerful at their base than the protagonist and antagonist, both of which would need some additional tools or powers to help combat them.
Why is this a thing? The protagonist has the tools to beat them, but without the tools they couldn't? It's their arsenal, dude. That's how characters work. And in Kirby's case, he doesn't even need a sword to whoop Meta Knight. Meta Knight just does it because it's a whole pride type of deal between their relationship. I would really like if you did drop this whole notion of characters being nothing without their arsenal.
And today I'll be ranking how strong every character in Smash Ultimate is if they had all the tools and characteristics from their original games.
Because you do contradict yourself and let this stuff go for other characters, it doesn't make any sense. Like, Meta Knight wasn't born with that sword. He obtained the sword, he mastered the sword, but it's just like, that's not him, if off of going of what you're saying, but you let Meta Knight get ahead and just let him stay here. And also, you have yet to mention Kirby, so I'm guessing you put him lower off of this type of logic, and I'm genuinely puzzled.
Ryu is naturally very strong and knows a lot of fighting techniques, but doesn't have much else to help him out or make him more powerful.
Have you played Street Fighter? Evil Ryu? Power of nothingness? None of that at all would make him more powerful. And also, have you seen the characters in Street Fighter? They're pretty fucking ridiculous. Like, have you seen what Akuma does? He kind of makes his own like landscape with shit. Like, he's ridiculous. But I guess you think just Ryu is just a Street Fighter guy that fights in the streets. It's just normalizing the shit.
Finally, I put Zero Suit Samus here because I think although she does have a plasma whip and some rocket boots, she's left very vulnerable without her power suit.
She's not as strong as her in the suit, but you should at least mention something to show how strong is she. But instead, you're actually just putting her a peg down, and that's kind of insinuating this whole thing where it's just so like, oh, the suit is only just a little bit more. And then after that, it's just instantly lets her become this whole Planet Buster character. And, you know, by itself, you know, she could still probably like whoop the whole Earth, just not blow up the planet. It's like, what's going on here?
Captain Falcon's here because he's just naturally pretty strong and built.
I guess, but that says nothing about his fighting skill. Being strong does not mean you're good at fighting. You can also just take from the F-Zero comic type deals that happen with that and show you exactly what Captain Falcon is capable of outside of Smash. But there's yet to be something mentioned about that, which is unfortunate, again.
Donkey Kong is literally an ape, so that should speak for itself.
He's also an ape that punched down a small moon onto Earth. Are we just gonna forget that too? And also, he's not just any normal ape. The shit in the game would show you easily how that's not just a normal thing. If Donkey Kong is a normal ape, holy shit, we would be fucked if that's the case.
I could say the same for King K. Rool as a crocodile since he's also a very large and strong animal.
I completely doubt that any regular crocodile would have the strength of K. Rool. It's just undisputed. And plus, you're also discrediting any form of like intelligence or anything at all, because I'm pretty sure you're just dumbing them down to just, oh, animal fight animal, because this is honestly what it looks like.
I also put some Pokemon here which could defend themselves pretty well if they needed to.
This is subjective because you're not even talking about who they really need defending from. Is it a regular person? Because with the right level, I can easily tell you that any Pokemon could do pretty easy against humans. You kind of have to be specific with this stuff, man. It's just like, who are they fighting for us to be like this strong? Like, is it like regular people that probably, they whoop us free? And it honestly just looks like you're throwing these opinions together and just like calling it a day at this point. You mentioned that also the Pokemon can deal well enough damage, but when you have Pikachu and Greninja, or Greninja and Pikachu in the same area, you also completely drop Charizard to the bottom. At that point, that's really just being biased, man. I'd get into Pokemon scaling and how all that strength works, but I've already done a couple of videos on that, and I really do not want to bother here.
Little Mac is a boxer and could definitely hurt someone real bad, but the thing about him is that I don't think he has the strength that actually kills someone while wearing boxing gloves.
You said that this is B tier, and these characters aren't designed to fight, just in quotes.
Most of the characters in B tier weren't necessarily designed to fight, but could do some damage if it came down to it.
Little Mac is literally a boxer in Punch-Out, where the boxers in there are nowhere near like the humans that we have here. They're just a power skill like way above. And along with that, the strength to end a person, since that's a huge thing with you in this tier, it really isn't a lot for any of these characters here. Little Mac would most likely be able to punch any real human, really any, and have their head spin. Not making them dizzy, but actually making their head spin. I don't think you've played really like a large amount of the games where these characters are from. So honestly, I just tell you to play these games before making these huge assumptions to where it's just like, yeah, Little Mac, just a boxer. Pit, just an angel.
Pit actually slayed a demon, even though it was with Palutena's help. And since Dark Pit is equally powerful, I put them both here.
What demon? Man, like, if you don't mention as to what we're trying to focus, it's like you're trying to insinuate like, oh, like, yeah, something we both know in this case. But what demon? There's multiple demons in Kid Icarus. Also, Hades, that's just completely, help or not for Hades' case when he did beat him. Does this just not matter? Like, Hades is just like a minuscule thing to the whole Kid Icarus? Like, is that just doesn't exist?
Rob is made fully of metal and isn't capable of feeling pain, so I feel like that gives him enough of an advantage versus everyone else.
Okay. Okay. That's not how that works. That's not how that works at all, man. You know it. Plus, the only Rob you could be going off of is the one in Smash, because the only feats that he would ever have are in Brawl. And the actual Rob is a toy, dude. Which, Smash is actually the worst canon you could deal with in this case. To mash up all these continuities and just put that all there. You can't take Rob to be this type of thing. And even then, it shows you Rob definitely gets hurt. It doesn't really matter if he feels the pain or not. Like, he gets beat. That's the thing. That's just it. He doesn't have to feel the pain. He's like, oh, I'm a robot, immortal or something like that. Like that wouldn't make any sense.
I also put the rest of the Fire Emblem cast here because, you know, they all have swords and are generally pretty good at fighting.
Okay, this is exactly how I know you have not touched a lot of these games. If Fire Emblem characters are just people with swords to you, that's just the easiest indicator that you haven't even played any of the games mentioned, which shouldn't be a surprise. I know a lot of Smash people do not play anything else besides Smash. It's just generally only that. But you can't go off of these characters because it's just all like, if you don't know anything to base it off of, then how are you going to rank them into this list? It wouldn't make any sense. You're literally just visually interpreting it and then adding in your opinion. It doesn't make your case any better. Just minimizing that and just showing you like that's really just it.
Shulk being able to change his physical attributes with his Minato thing, whatever it's called. Since
the Shulk that we have in the game is in his god form, I'll just let you go on that. I'm not even going to bother with like trying to prove any examples with Shulk.
I put both Young Link and Toon Link here because I feel like they simply aren't as physically strong as Link, even though they all share similar tools.
Physically strong? That's for sure not your focus when you've been on this list this whole time. That's pretty odd since physical strength alone, that would indeed, again, contradict what you had said earlier. Come on, man, like...
Even though Zelda can technically turn into Sheik, I put her a tier lower because she's in her princess form here and not her fighting form.
I think you're highly underestimating Zelda's magic to be putting her down like this. Even with debating on what Zelda version that we're talking about, because her form was changed to a different iteration, which would add it into the debate and just be like, oh, Zelda is a different Zelda, so you would have to change it up. She still deserves a lot more credit than you're giving her.
Finally, I feel like Mario and Luigi are decently strong, but they win most of their battles by using some outside source of power to stop Bowser's plans.
I'm just honestly getting legitimately tired from this bias stuff, man. This is kind of annoying. To see someone contradict themselves this many times about artillery or not, physical strength or not, it's ridiculous. Also, I would have expected that that you can just play legitimately almost any Mario game and win without the use of a lot of this stuff. Catch a speed run once in a while if you want to just give out a whole potential narrative of the game and all that. And that's just showing the capability in the game. Mario and Luigi got way more feats than a lot of the characters that you mentioned. And they do this with no boost too. This is Mario we're talking about. Mr. I can kick castles casually. Almost was an alliteration.
Let's move on to C tier and talk about Bowser. I feel like every game he tries to stop Mario in, he's carried by some insane power that, if given to someone else, would be much more devastating than it is in the hands of Bowser. Seriously, if you have the power of 6 grand stars and you still can't kill a freaking plumber that can spin around in circles, you're doing something wrong.
Why the fuck is Bowser in the same area as Diddy Kong and the Ice Climbers? Also, the narrative of Mario games, they're obviously going to give it to Mario. Why wouldn't it? Are you kidding me? He also doesn't even need to be messed around with or whatever nature the game is usually. On his own, he's ridiculously strong and is a reasonably strong magic user. But in here, he's in the same area as Duck Hunt. Like, what the... What is this?
Diddy Kong is pretty agile for sure, but I don't think he would realistically be able to knock someone out by himself.
Hey, if you're gonna apply what you said about Donkey Kong to Diddy, then Diddy's just a monkey, and he would already be ahead of regular humans if you want to talk about 1v1. Have you seen those little things claw people's faces off? Like, they do a reasonable job against us.
Duck Hunt is pretty much just a dog and a bird, unless you count whoever's shooting the gun that hits their projectiles and works as their smash attacks.
Okay. Putting the guns to the side, it's a dog and a duck. You put a dog and a duck ahead of all these other characters because of what? I'm going to wait to get on what characters I have the biggest problem with being here, but just thinking about it alone, like before even posting the video, you had to have thought, it's just a dog and a duck. This is pretty questionable.
Ice climbers can double team someone, but they wouldn't have much of a strategy besides repeatedly walloping someone with their hammers.
I'm saying this as unsarcastic as possible. Do you see the size of those mallets? They're damn near the size of them, and you see these climbers moving and jumping and all that types of stuff in their respective game, which means they have to have some type of strength to handle themselves like that. I'm just saying, they're not as free as you would be giving them credit for.
Much like Bowser, I feel like King Dedede just isn't a very effective villain. He didn't even have much of a role in Kirby's latest adventure, Kirby's Star Allies.
This is really almost as ridiculous as it gets. Look, you've seen how many times that Kirby has smacked King Dedede around? And he's been alive this whole time. That should say something at the very least. He's also had his own couple of minigames or something to where it just shows that it's him basically boss rushing against everyone that Kirby has fought. And if that's the case, that would put him at least not at the same level, but probably nearing him.
I think Kirby himself actually belongs here as well, because he can't do much damage without stealing an ability from someone or using someone's attack against them.
Magolor, Dark Nebula, Dark Mind, Dynablade, Void Termina, any knight mentioned, all of them are just, in quotes, impossible to beat without copy abilities. That's what you're just saying, and that's how that works. Also, what's the worst thing about this is that Kirby sucking up an attack or enemy isn't just something that Kirby picks up. This isn't a power. Kirby sucking is literally just Kirby. It's like if fish breathing in water, that's just fish. It's actually amazing about what your take is up on him. I've never seen anyone undercut Kirby like this. This is actually pretty interesting because I usually see Kirby being said as, oh, this is the strongest character in Smash, which is it's wrong, but it's usually a thing you see people do. I'll give you credit here, man. I know you didn't steal this list from anyone else with results like this. Or, well, honestly, if you did take this list from someone, that would just be completely unfortunate because this did not give you any credit whatsoever.
I think that although Ness and Lucas have their magic powers and stuff, they're just kids besides that, and I don't think their powers could do the job if they really needed to take down some powerful figure.
They're just kids with psychic powers, not magic. It doesn't matter how strong the psychic powers are or who they beat, it's just PSI. Okay, man. Again, psychic powers. Like, purely psychic powers, not magic. Two different things, surprisingly. And just Mother 2, Mother 3, play the games, see the enemies. You'll be like, oh, wait. It's kind of that to fight against that. That's pretty notable. That's you got to give them something on the board for that. But in this case, they're just kids with psychic powers to you. It's honestly interesting.
Peach and Daisy also have magic powers, but to a lesser extent than Zelda.
Peach has launched Bowser in her own game. Fuck the magic. She's got these hands. She also scales to our normal characters that we have in like Super Mario RPG in some areas, so do what you will with that. But Daisy, not sure. Many people have her as the same strength as Peach since they're extremely similar, but there are reasonable differences in strength from Mario to Luigi, Wario to Waluigi, and all of that. So I would like to say that it's possible with them that there are differences, but at the same time, we don't see that much of Peach or Daisy. So I guess the easy thing to do would be to scale to Peach, but the safe thing to do would just disregard her incompletely. But, you know, just we gotta include Daisy.
Pac-Man is just, I don't even know what to say about him. He can only eat fruit and little dots, so I don't think that would help him too much in battle.
And Ghost. He eats ghosts. Even if you think it's a little minuscule thing, that's a feat. And he's also had more games than just that Pac-Man, if you want to try to mess around with the Pac-Man canonical things going on with that, because he's had more games in 3D Pac-Man. I don't like talking about it, but it exists.
I figured the weaker Pokemon would fit here because, you know, they're kind of weak, but they also have fairly painful attacks if used correctly.
These weaker Pokemon would probably free up a lot of characters with the right level, but I'll actually leave this alone because I'm getting tired of this. Not recording, but kind of getting tired of the video.
Finally, I think Wii Fit Trainer belongs here, because although they're very, fit, they spend too much of their time doing yoga and relaxing peacefully for me to really see them getting involved in a fight.
If she's just a yoga trainer, then why is she on the same level as a magic-wielding dragon, a galactic destroyer, and psychic children? It makes no sense as to why she would even be up here.
Okay, I'm tired of script writing, so I'll just wrap this whole tier into a few sentences. All of these characters are just not fit for fighting whatsoever. They're either way too happy or peaceful to worry about fighting, or they would easily be a pushover compared to the rest of the cast. They kinda just do their own thing and rarely get put in situations where they need to defend themselves anyways.
I think I can run through all of this. I think I'm gonna try and go ahead and run through all these possible. So let's see. Alright, first one, have you seen the technology that Bowser Jr. works with? Do you think that any of the Koopalings are one to mess with that type of shit that they have? They're like Wu-Tang. They're nothing to fuck with. Dr. Mario is just Mario with a PhD, but let's just separate that completely because that's what's going on. It's a spin-off game, man. Mario has a bunch of these. They're usually treated as composite Mario for the most part because Dr. Mario isn't used in a separate form in lists or fights or anything on strength like that. The reason why a lot of Smash lists suck, they get really odd because of these type of characters, and people forget that characters aren't added on how they fight in their game. That's just not the case. Inkling has a full-on artillery. It's just within two, but you want to get on technicalities, it's probably legitimately weaker in all cases. Jigglypuff, in all cases, deserves more than what you're giving it, especially since you put it on a scale lower than Pichu, when Pichu is weaker in both special attack and attack, from what I'm remembering, than Jigglypuff. Wario and Yoshi have the same scaling to Mario in some areas, and if you actually give them potential, they actually have potential of beating Bowser, and depending on how expansive we make this fight and go in depth with it, but just making it easy, just lowball to scale to Mario, and you have some sort of result. There are a lot of games to take from. It wouldn't be that hard to figure it out, and since I just cleared this out, I think my biggest issue of this all is that you just disregard a lot of these characters because you think in a life or death situation, they just laugh it off, and that's just how that would work, but that's not how any of it works in any of their universes. But my biggest issue with this whole video is lack of feats whatsoever. And some people will come to me like, oh, you didn't provide any feats either. It's like, I'm not the one making the case. It's different. Majority of this is actually just opinion on his video, not mine. I'm being completely dead ass. I'm sure that you haven't played a majority of these games that are tied to these characters, because what you just mentioned is just all like, oh, this is what I think of the character or how I think of them in Smash, and this is how it applies. Being uninformed is perfectly fine, but not taking the time to learn and just spouting out the nonsense to an audience is just spreading misinformation. That's the worst thing that you could do. And I saw your comment I saw it like recently about wanting to remake the video, play the games and all that. You didn't say play the games. I want you to play the games. That's my thing. Play the games, or just take time to sit down and reflect on the comments, because they actually had insightful stuff down in there, aside from some of the shit show that I did see. I don't believe that you should try to rush out the next video. I know you're going to be wanting to do this because you just see like, oh man, this amount of views. It's just like, oh, I need to click back and snap back on this immediately. I have a channel too, dog. You figure this stuff out. It's just like, okay, let me calm this up and figure out what I was wrong to just progress on into the next one. There's stuff that needs to be looked up. Don't focus on what you think it's getting you. That's not going to help at all. Being wrong and spreading that over to a lot of people is just terrible, man. It's not going to help you, and it does you no better. Also, if you are going to do it reasonably fast, I don't know, just at least make the tiers make sense and actually try to factor them in correctly instead of this really odd opinionated thing going on, and don't contradict yourself as much as you did here. Also, if you do want to hit me up, I got a Twitter, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be adding you in this to just say like, hey, debunked your video, just so you know. You can check it out if you want to. This is my thing. Thank you all for watching. More Smash and more Pokemon stuff coming soon. Maybe more debunks if more people start making videos like this, because for some reason, I don't know what it is with the rise of the same type of stuff, with everyone having this like same reasoning, but it's really annoying. Like, it's just like, oh, Ultimate is coming out, let me make some canon stuff. And that's been going on for a while. This is pretty weird, but it's more annoying if anything, because it's just like everyone's giving the same type of shit to these people, and it's just like more people are just gonna be misinformed, and more people are gonna be getting his arguments and like, wow, they just get completely checked and bodied, and they gotta hold that because someone gave them the wrong information to begin with. Like, that's terrible. But I'm indifferent to it. More videos to come. Hopefully, I'll see you all in the next one. If you did get mad about this, I don't know what to tell you. Shit happens. Until then, peace out and Godspeed.